Hi everyone, good to see you. Another Sunday. Don't the weeks go past? We're continuing today with the theme of Get Out of Your Head, the book that we've been looking at recently. And I wanted to focus this week, if it's okay, on being unafraid. I don't know what your week's been like, but sometimes you can have those up and down times. And your faith seems to go up, seems to go down, and you can be filled with fear sometimes. But this is about being unafraid, trying to get over the what ifs. And I've tried to pick some songs this morning that reflect that and have spoken to me, so I hope you like them. They're posted on Facebook. So we've been looking at, over the last few weeks, how our thinking and thoughts affect us on a daily basis. And perhaps it's even more challenging now in these times, particularly when we've got this lockdown. And I've been overwhelmed with the information that's available to us. We're surrounded by this guidance, this advice, the recommendations about what to do, what not to do, how to keep safe, how to keep others safe, where to go, where not to go. But in all of that, there's a real price being paid by some people. I don't know about you, but I've been out, when I've been walking and just looking at people generally, there are some where there's a real intense fear in their eyes. They're living in real fear, dodging people, jumping away, looking scared, holding masks close to their faces and stepping quickly aside from anything and anyone that they might pass, just in case they might catch something. And I think they've got questions going through their heads, and don't we all get questions like this? What if I touch a surface which has the virus? What if I bump into someone who has it? What if I get it? What if I can't do my job? What if people won't talk to me? What if? We get into a range of what ifs. Now look, don't get me wrong. It's really important to stay safe. It's really important to act sensibly, following all the guidance and advice the best we can. It's wise to do that. But giving room in our heads for far too many what ifs on an everyday basis can simply lead us into a downward spiral where we start to become trapped by our own fear. And we can end up being scared to do absolutely anything, even just getting up or going out of the house. Questions take over. And worse still, we might have something really new and exciting on the horizon, but if we've got all the what ifs going through our head, maybe a holiday, maybe a new ministry, maybe an upcoming adventure or a new direction or a journey, then you can find that all your joy can start to get sucked dry. And the what ifs come back. What if I fail? What if I'm not up to it? And these types of thoughts can add real weight to our lives. And I think that's affecting a lot of people now. There's a lot of weight on people in their lives because of everything that's going on. So I'm asking you, are you dragging yourself through each day because you're weighed down by anxiety? Many people are. Are you playing all these what-if scenarios in your head? Those two little words, what if, can set our imaginations running and running scared. So can I ask you, do you think those types of thoughts are from God or not? As far as I understand, our Jesus is in the business of lifting chains and releasing us, of replacing fear with strength, of distributing peace, joy, and boldness. And of course, it's true that there are healthy levels of anxiety that signal our brains to be afraid of the things truly to be afraid of. For example, fast coming traffic when we're standing in the middle of the road, or angry growling dogs that are not snarling and looking at us in the face, showing their teeth, or playing around, my own experience, with electricity when the power's still on. We need these physical and emotional responses to stay safe in circumstances like these. But finding new worries to think about just leaves us bound up. You maybe what ifing yourselves to death. And this is the point. We need to be able to choose to surrender our fears to God and not to be afraid. Maybe it's time to be unafraid. One of the songs really spoke to me this morning about really searching out and speaking out, I am unafraid. It was really powerful, by Jesus Culture. I think it's the last one. Have a look at the words. So if you're struggling with the what ifs or anxiety, please don't stay silent about it or be embarrassed about it. Talk to someone. Talk to someone you trust, or look for some support. See a doctor if you need to. Go to a counsellor if you need to. Get professional help if you need to. Don't be afraid. It could be the best thing you could do. And you know, people can and want to help people. You might be in that place where you think, I can't trust God to take care of my tomorrows, but it's not true. The truth we can say to ourselves, and we may need to do it repeatedly, is this: God is in control of every day of my life. And let's not stop encouraging one another to take this in. God is in control of our days if we have faith. God is in control of every day of my life and every day of yours. In Luke 12, 6-7, there are these verses. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Yet not one of them is forgotten by God. Indeed, the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Now, some of us may have less hairs on our heads than we used to. Elaine tells me about mine. But God still knows us, and he's still in control. I believe in the power of encouragement personally. I believe that we can help each other to surrender our fears to God. I believe that we don't have to be afraid. But one of the things you need to keep doing is keep telling each other, keep looking for opportunities to bless, support and encourage, not discourage. Don't take it for granted that people feel loved or valued because they seem okay on the outside, or they post a smiley emoji on Facebook. Let them know. Give them a call, send them a card, give them a like on Facebook, but even better, write a comment on Facebook, an affirmation. You know, that was really great, well done, thinking of you. Point them to the positive stuff, not in a preachy way, but where you know things that have helped you or encouraged you can be passed on. We not to assume that people know, no matter how bubbly and great they seem. We've just got to keep encouraging everyone and looking for the positive in everything we do. We've got to get real. But what gets us into trouble sometimes is that inside our heads aren't even real fears. We worry about things that may never happen. And I believe researchers have shown that 7% of what we worry about is not much more than our fearful minds punishing us with exaggerations and misconceptions. We build things out of proportion and always come up with the worst case scenario, especially in these times. You have a headache, so you go on the internet and you look at Google, and the next thing you believe is that you've got the rarest disease in the world and you're going to die tomorrow. The internet is full of worst case scenarios. That's what grabs our attention. And I find in times like these, I've got to go to those sources which help me push my fear away, because I can dwell on things, I can think about things, I can go through things in my mind when I am quiet and when I'm asleep, when I'm going to bed. And I've got to push these away. I've got to push fear away. And how do I do that? It could be going to a person. It could be looking at a testimony. It could be by praying with someone. That's really powerful. We underestimate the value of prayer with one another. I've been to prayer meetings where God actually speaks. His spirit is so powerful and it just bounces on your faith goes up. But if I'm not there, I'm never going to get that. I look at stories in the Bible. I look at experiences in the Bible. That really helps. This is stuff we know, but I want to keep pushing fear away when it comes into my head, when it throws the what ifs in my head. In Philippians, Paul pours out some real positive words he wrote about this. He knows what it's like when we can start to spiral down. And this is what he says. It's from Philippians 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. I'll say it again. Rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. It's not a suggestion, it's an instruction. Rejoice. Think of the good stuff. Don't be anxious about anything. Now, I've got to tell myself, you're probably the same. That's okay for you, Paul, but you don't know where I am. And that's true. Paul doesn't know what you're going through. True. But remember that when he wrote this, he was in prison with a death sentence over his head. So he really meant what he wrote. He meant that the earth is not our home. Our home in heaven is secure. So if death is not to be feared, what exactly are we scared of? Now, don't get me wrong. I know it's not easy to be positive like this in tough circumstances or where things appear to be unfair, to think heavenly thoughts or even positive ones, because we're living in the daily challenges of the here and now, and that can be sapping. I know that. But I also know this, that the bad thoughts and worries don't do us any good. Bad thoughts and worries for me don't do me any good. To me, it comes down to this choice thing again, forcing my mind to choose the positive and go for the truth. If I can muster all my strength to choose to be grateful, if I can steer my thoughts to things that are true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy, I know if I do that, my outlook gets better, even for a time. I know it, and I feel it inside. And Jesus explains that there is an enemy out there. He calls him the father of lies. So we do need to be as sharp as we can. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the devil is out there under every bush and around every corner, but we do know that the world is a place of confusion at times, and particularly now, which can knock us off course, and we need to fight back with the truth. And here's one strategy that I like. If things come into my mind, I grab the thought and I actually think, well, what is this thought? Secondly, I then think about, do I really believe it to be true? I diagnose it and look at it. And I take it a step further if I can and consider what God says about it. You may have to talk to someone about this or have a look at some scriptures. And then fourthly, make a choice. Are you going to believe what God says or not? That last step, when we're going through difficult times, is the hardest. Because if we can't follow it through, and if we can't believe what God says, we then go back to the what ifs and it all starts again. It's not easy, but it's a breakthrough when we get there. And Paul shared all his internal struggles, but he still had deep faith. And yes, faith is a gift, but it's really hard won at times. And I think faith now is hard won with everything that's been removed from us. And remember that when he pleaded to God to take the thorn away from him, whatever it was, God said this, my grace is sufficient for you and my power is made perfect in weakness. So Paul says in response, therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest in me and on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So what I'm saying here is do your best to find out what is really real. Work at it. Don't assume that the rest of us don't struggle with the what ifs as well. It's not true. I have what ifs in my mind, which when I let them take over, just take me down. I've got to make a choice at some point. And the choice is to trust God. The challenge for us when we get thoughts like this is that we try to work everything out. We detail all the permutations and we try to sort it and fix it. But we can't, because we're not God. So if we can genuinely realize that we're not God and understand that we have limited power anyway, and that God has the power to help us, we're starting to move into that right mindset. In the end, this is really good news, that He is in control and not us. That's one of the things that really freed me. When I came to the position in my head where I thought, it's not me, I've got no power, God is in control, it really set me free. It's easy to preach and harder to live out, of course, and change is often slow and difficult, but changing our minds is possible. I've been looking at some courses. There's a course called The Road to Recovery. It's a Christian course, but it's based upon the Alcoholics Anonymous format, would you believe? And they include questions on stuff like this at the start to help people step out of their denial more into God's grace and to then let God lead. And there's a freedom in realizing the stuff that you can't control and letting it go. You and I may have loads of gifts and talents, but being God isn't one of them. So why not have a go at some of the following? Choose to believe that God has promised not to leave you. Choose to believe that God knows your thoughts and loves you. Choose to believe that God has accepted you. Choose to believe that God releases the pressure in you to please people. And choose to believe God specializes in taking weaknesses and using them for His glory. That's how we fight the spiral. That's how we get unafraid. We pull the thoughts out of our heads and steal all the power and then replace them with what God said is true. But there are no promises that our worst fears won't come true. Sometimes they do, but even then, God remains our unfailing hope. No matter how your life looks today, no matter what tomorrow holds, God does care for you. In Matthew 6:28, it says this, "Look at how the wildflowers grow. They don't work or make clothes for themselves, but I tell you that not even King Solomon, with all his wealth, had clothes as beautiful as one of those flowers. It is God who clothes the wild grass, grass that is here today and gone tomorrow, burned up in the oven. Won't He be all the more certain to clothe you? Oh, we of little faith." We've got to know that we're cared for. There is nothing to fear because God has us all, me, you, in His hands. We don't need to be afraid because His blessings are new every morning. Like the song says, great is His faithfulness. We prayed that this morning. His blessings are new every morning. So I just want to encourage you. I just want to pray for you. And I just want to bless you. And I really say, let's do everything we can to pray for one another so we're not in that place of what if, or we're not in that place of fear, but we're in a new place of unafraidness and boldness and joy. And let's keep telling each other that we can remain there. Hope in some way this spoke to you. Hope it mirrors the themes. We're keeping on this way for a short time, and we'll see what we can do up at church when we get something set up. But I'm hoping it won't be too long before we'll be able to get together in some format or another. So bless you guys. I'll see you soon, all right? See you in the week. Bye.